Hey, what's going on, nation? Today we're going to be exposing 4 of the most horrible teen and hard gainer myths sabotaging your gains. And I do have some exciting news too. I'm starting to work a lot more with other YouTubers and adding their programs to my website. Just got done adding a 4-week bigger bicep program from my boy Reggie B Fitness, and I have a 4-week bigger chest program being added from another YouTuber. His name is Jason. He runs Time is Muscle. And he actually just became a dad too, so congratulations on being a dad, Jason. So his program will be up probably within the next week or so, but if you're trying to get your biceps a bit bigger and you want to add some more bicep training to your current routine, I'll post a link to Reggie's program down in the info section below. And now, let's hit those myths. Myth number 1 is that there's no such thing as a teen bodybuilding program. And this probably frustrates me just as much as all the fake natty garbage that's out there on YouTube. And I'll tell you why, guys. And it's not because I don't mind helping teenagers and guiding them. What bothers me is that other YouTubers utilize this marketing technique to title their videos teen workouts. And what it's done over the last few years is it's developed this misconception that if you're a teenager, there's this specific grouping of exercises, sets, reps, and rest periods that you have to be doing in order to see gains. And it's just not true, guys. There's only 2 categories you're going to fall into as a teenager. You're either going to be a beginner who's never worked out before, or you're going to already be an avid lifter because you've been working out for a few years. That's it. But there is something to be said that if you're a beginner and a teenager, and this also applies if you're an adult as well. If you're a beginner, there are certain programs that you should be following in order to maximize your gains. But they're not teen specific. At the end of the day, if you're a beginner, you should be starting out with a program that's going to help you build a nice base foundation in order to help you along your fitness journey. And what I like to have people do is have them start off with a push-pull-legs program, and it's for a few different reasons. Number 1, a push-pull-legs program, like I said, will help you build a solid foundation that you can build from as you become, as you start working out more and getting bigger and making gains. And number 2, especially as a teenager when your hormones are through the roof, obviously your body wants to grow and you want to build muscle. So what you want to do is you want to be able to take advantage of multiple growth periods every single week. And if you start off doing a 5-day bodybuilding split as a natural athlete, and we talked about this in my anabolic window video, as a natural athlete doing every body part once a week, you'll see muscle, but you will not be maximizing your gains. You need to be hitting the same muscle groups every couple days, so basically twice a week, in order to really maximize how much muscle that you can build in a shorter amount of time. So obviously with the push-pull-leg style program, there's only 3 workouts, and there's 7 days in a week. So you can hit every workout twice a week. You can do push-pull-legs, rest, and then push-pull-legs, or you can do push-pull-legs, and then rest on the 7th day, and then start over. Now, for those of you who've never done a push-pull-legs program before, you can check mine out. I'll post my link to it on my in the info section below, my website, muscularstrength.com. It's actually a 3-month program. So if you're a beginner, obviously check the program out. Start off on month 1. Now, if you've been lifting for a little while and you want to try a new program, I recommend you guys check it out, but start on month 2 because it's a little bit more intense. Myth number 2, guys, is that there's no such thing as a hard gainer. Now, this is still a term that I like to use because it's something that people recognize, especially when they see it in a video title, but hard gainers don't exist. The only reason why you're not building muscle is for one of 2 reasons or a combination of both. You're either not eating enough food, or your workout plan is garbage. Or, like I said, a combination of both. Your workout plan is garbage, and you're not eating enough food. At the end of the day, let's say you had the most amazing workout plan on the planet, okay? And you're still not building muscle. It's gonna be because you're not eating enough to actually build the muscle. There will be a point to where you are eating so many calories that you're either building muscle or starting to get really fat. You're not going to stay skinny forever. It's impossible. It's literally calories in versus calories out, no matter how many you burn naturally. And I know, obviously, teenagers, if you're watching this, a lot of you, your metabolism is through the roof. And I'm going to relate to you guys because I was the same exact way. All my brothers are still the same way. I got brothers that are 10 years younger than me. They're like 6'1" and they're thin as a rail. And it's because they do not eat enough food. And you might think that you're eating enough, but unless you're tracking your macros and you're literally tracking in your phone how much protein you eat, how much carbs you eat, and how much fat you eat, you're never going to really know if it's enough. Or on top of that, you could be eating lots of food, but if you're not eating the right ratios of protein, carbs, and fat, that'll affect you. And if the food sources you're choosing are junk, and you're just eating junk food all day thinking that, well, it's calories coming in, so I'm going to build muscle if I just eat McDonald's and junk food every day, you're forgetting about the most important thing, which is your vitamins and minerals. So you could have all these deficiencies even though you're eating a lot of food, because you're not eating the right food and you're not making healthy choices. And I know a lot of you, especially when you're young, because I was the same way, you have a hard time making healthy choices because you just don't really know what to eat. So what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to link you to an article on my website that's literally called the Healthy Shopping List. And it's going to give you lists of food for protein, carbs, fat, fiber, all of that, so that you can pick and choose from it to make sure that you're eating properly and you're seeing gains. And there's one more thing I want to add to this, guys. What I see a lot from interacting with you in the comment section is that you guys eat a lot of food on the days you're training, but on your rest days, for whatever reason, you drastically drop your calories. You have to understand that you're building muscle, your body is recovering on the rest days. When you're in the gym training, that's not when you're building muscle, that's when you're breaking it down. On the rest days, that's when your body's recovering and trying to build. So if you're not feeding yourself on those rest days, you're basically just slamming your head against the wall. On days you work out, you're feeling good, you smashed, ate a ton of food, and then on your rest day, you just kind of ate like a bird and didn't really eat anything. That constant up and down is going to be a huge reason as to why you're not seeing muscle growth. So, once you start tracking your food, you have to make sure that you're still hitting that calorie goal and those macro ratios on every single day, whether you're working out or not. The third myth is that weight training will not stunt your growth. And I'm talking about this mostly for the parents of the teens watching this video, as opposed to the teens, because the teens are the ones that want to go to the gym and they might be worried about weight training stunting their growth, but I get a lot of comments from you guys saying that your parents won't let you lift weights because they think it's going to stunt your growth, and I want to dispel this myth. Now, I do have to be upfront and let you guys know that you will not find a study online that will 100% prove or disprove this theory of whether or not weight training stunts your growth. And I'll tell you why. You would literally have to get a group of kids and then purposely try to stunt their growth for a period of time. Like, that's torture. Like, why would anybody sign up for that, right? But what I can tell you is that from my own observations of being a personal trainer and just being involved in sports and weightlifting in general, I have nailed it down to one basic thing that I think will affect whether or not training in any aspect will stunt your growth, and it has to do with nutrition. And I'll explain to you why. I grew up, I was a wrestler. I played a lot of sports, but I did wrestling, all throughout my youth and up and through high school. And I started out wrestling like, 85s, because I was like really tiny, obviously. And by the time I stopped wrestling, I was doing 152s, and obviously I had grown throughout that period. Now, one thing that I had said to myself is that I never wanted to be one of those guys that was constantly cutting weight to stay within a specific weight class. I didn't want to do it. I didn't like do it. I didn't want to, there was lots of gross things that wrestlers do, in case you don't know, to hit their numbers. Number one, they'll hold a water bottle and constantly spit all the water into it to try to get all the water out of their body. They just won't eat any food. And then you start doing cardio with trash bags wrapped around your body to suck all the water out. You're doing a lot of things to deprive yourself of the precious nutrition it needs, not even to grow, just to function in general. And think about this. If you're growing, if you're in your younger years, okay, whether, I started wrestling when I was 8, and I stopped wrestling when I graduated high school, which is 18. That range from 8 to 18, that's where you're hitting all your growth spurts, that's when you're going through puberty, and if during those years you're depriving yourself of nutrition, what do you think is going to happen? You're not going to grow to your maximum potential because your body isn't going to have the nutrition it needs in order to generate that growth. And you see it all the time. So many kids come out of wrestling and they're like 5 feet tall, and it's for that exact reason. Now, they may have been state champions in their weight class, but if you're in 10th grade and you're wrestling 135s and then you come back next year into 11th grade and you hit a growth spurt and now you're 155 and now you have to cut all that weight to get back down to your weight class, I mean, you can see how this is damaging your body. And now what a lot of people like to bring up is that lifting heavy weights can damage the growth plates in your spine. And that's why they don't want you doing heavy lifting or heavy squatting or heavy deadlifting. And to those people, I say this, I'm like, you know, you don't want your kid to go to the gym and lift with proper form and do everything the right way, but you'll let that same kid go on the football field and run as fast as they can and go head first into another player week after week, and you don't think that that's going to damage the growth plates in their spine? Like, give me a break. It's all a matter of perception, and when you really start to think about it, light bulbs are going to start going off in your head, and this is going to make sense to you. Another thing I was talking to my brother-in-law about, I was like, you know, think about kids from down south. Like, look at the football players. A lot of football players come from down south. Like, football is huge down there, and so are the kids that come out from down south. And think about a guy who grew up working on a farm, okay? I use this as an example. If you grew up working on a farm, you probably do more physical manual labor in 1 week than most of us do going to the gym for a month. Like, it's really intense. And also, the culture down south is like always having big gatherings of people, always having lots of food available. So you basically got people who are working their butts off, training hard, and eating lots of food, and they're all big giant monsters, you know? And if you think about that, it kind of plays into my theory that it just comes down to whether or not you're giving yourself proper nutrition as you're training. So obviously these are theoretical ways to disprove whether or not weight training is going to stunt your growth. But I mean, guys, if you really think about it, if you're doing training with proper form and you're not only giving your body the nutrition it needs, but the hydration and the sleep it needs in order to maximize its growth potential, there should be no reason why your growth is stunted. And if you're watching this video and you've done everything right and you're still short, well, unfortunately, genetics will play a role, and some of us just weren't meant to be tall. And the fourth and final myth, guys, is that there's no reason why you should be doing massive bulking and massive cutting phases. As a teenager, like we just talked about, you want to take advantage of building as much muscle as possible, especially as you're going through all your growth spurts and puberty and all those things that happen to you when you're a teenager. I mean, your hormones are through the roof. You are primed for building muscle. So what do you think is going to happen to you in those cutting phases where you're drastically reducing calories and you're drastically reducing the nutrition coming into your body? You're not going to be maximizing your muscle growth then, are you? Now, so what you should be doing is taking advantage of lean gains. And I talk about this a lot in my bulking video, which if you haven't seen it, you definitely have to check it out. I'll link to it down in the info section below. But basically, you can focus on making lean gains by sitting within a calorie surplus window of around 250 to 500 calories a day. And what that's going to do is allow you to build muscle while minimizing the amount of fat that you gain. Now, obviously, some of you guys have a crazy high metabolism, so maybe your calorie surplus window has to be a bit bigger. Maybe you have to go as high as 750 calories, and maybe some of you freaks have to go as high as 1,000. What it's going to come down to is learning your bodies. Now, there are calculators online that can help you figure out what your daily macros should be. I have one on my website as well. But you have to understand that those numbers are a starting point. There's no calculator that's going to be able to tell you exactly what you should be eating. It's only going to be a baseline, and then it's up to you to learn your body and literally eat and train and look in the mirror and see how you're affected by these different ratios of protein, carbs, and fat. And it might sound like a bit of a pain in the butt right now, but I guarantee you guys, after like 1 week, 2 max, you're going to pretty much have it down and know how to manipulate your macros to see different changes in your body based on how you feel. It's like riding a bike. It's really hard at first, but you never forget how to do it, right? And now I know some of you guys are going to ask questions about, well, what if I'm a teen bodybuilder and I'm trying to do a show, or, you know, what if I have a photo shoot coming up, or what if I just want to go to the beach and look more shredded? Well, at that point, you can do some cutting, but it's not going to be like this massive cutting phase where you're reducing your calories drastically. If you're already sitting within that window of around 250 to 500 calorie surplus to build muscle, you can basically reverse that in order to trim down a little bit. So you would be in a deficit of 250 to 500 calories. And there's a big difference between manipulating the ratios of protein, carbs, and fat that you're eating to go from a surplus to a deficit versus cutting water and just cutting food in general in order to lose weight, and then doing like 6 hours of cardio every single day. Like, there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things, and for those of you guys who are really learning your bodies and you do it the right way, you're not going to have to worry about depriving yourself the nutrition it needs, your body the nutrition it needs in order to maximize its muscle growth. Now, for those of you guys who might be starting out a bit overweight, this is what I have to say to you. Obviously, everything that I just said does apply to you, but the first thing that you're going to have to do is obviously drop your body fat percentage down. Now, what I typically like to do with my clients that have a higher body fat percentage is I like to get them down to about 12 to 15%, and the way I do that is with circuit-style training. Basically combine circuit-style training with a calorie deficit and hit cardio a few days a week in order to help them get their body fat down, and then once they hit that 12 to 15% range, I then switch them over to lean gains and put them on a push-pull legs program. And the reason why I do that is because there's really no point if you're overweight to getting you down to like 7% body fat just so you can look in the mirror and see yourself as being skinny before you start building muscle. You're going to have a lot easier time building muscle sitting within that 12 to 15% range. And if you start building muscle from there, you're going to look a lot better. And if you're doing the lean gains like I just talked about, when it comes time for you to start cutting a little more, it's going to be a lot easier too. So I know there's a lot of information. I definitely want you guys to reach out to me and leave those comments down in the comment section below so I can help you. And if you enjoy quick tip videos like this, please show some love by hitting that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, more good stuff coming soon. See ya.